Hey folks, welcome to VerifiedInvesting.com. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here. In today's video, I want to cover a few different key cryptocurrencies. We're going to look purely from a technical analysis standpoint, and we're actually going to start with Bitcoin dominance because the breakdown on Bitcoin dominance below a parallel channel that has been intact for a long time is very telling about potentially an altcoin move, or at least altcoins being stronger than Bitcoin. So let's dive right in. This is your chart of Bitcoin dominance. And again, the beauty of this chart, I mean, look at this parallel going back to 2022 and how Bitcoin dominance held within this parallel, continually hammering on the upside, occasionally coming down to the lower end of the parallel, then moving back up, pulling back, kissing and kissing again, and then finally coming back down. But this is very telling. It consolidated right there and broke down. And what this tells us is that altcoins relative to Bitcoin have been gaining momentum. And again, what's interesting here is that altcoins are trading very similarly to the Russell 2000. And the Russell 2000 is starting to perk up. And that is a good thing for small and mid caps in the stock market, and also apparently good for the kind of the altcoins. And again, it almost makes sense, right? Because a lot of these altcoins, they are reliant, just like small caps, on potentially borrowing money to get their businesses going and their coins really rocking and rolling. And so there is an impact via interest rates, which affects small caps. We've started to see the short end of the curve starting to roll over, even the long end of the yield curve beginning to come in as well. And again, that is a positive for altcoins as well as small caps and mid caps. All right, so that's the first thing that I kind of gravitate towards. And you can really see this represented between Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? If we look at Bitcoin's chart, Bitcoin's had a pretty substantial drawdown since the all-time highs of about 2 to 3 weeks ago, right up here when we were at $120,000 per coin. Ethereum, on the other hand, or ETH, is only fractionally down from its previous high here, where it pierced its all-time high, right? So very minimal pullback on ETH versus Bitcoin having a much larger drawdown. And again, we're even seeing coins like Hype and a few others making new near-term highs just today alone. Now, let's go over the Bitcoin chart and really dissect it here, guys. And one of the things that catches my eye is the long-term trend line here that goes from the April lows in Bitcoin and connects through the low here in June, then hits again in early August. We've broken, we've retraced back up, and now we're being rejected again. Now, Bitcoin's catching a little bit of a bid here, but overall, this is a significant break on Bitcoin and could spell more trouble to the downside. In fact, what I'm looking for now, as long as we don't recapture this orange trend line, currently trading around 120,000, I would actually be looking for this 100,000 area on Bitcoin. And again, you can see lots of support here where we could get a significant Bitcoin bounce all the way across from these short-term highs, and then we come down, break out, low, and low hit again. And that's right at 100,000, which is also an even number, a major even number. So just something to keep an eye on there. But right now, the near-term bias on Bitcoin, even if we get a little bit more of a bounce here over the next day or so, would still be looked at as downside probability unless we can take out this area here and again really recapture 120,000 per coin. Now on the other side, Ethereum or ETH is actually still holding a trend line here. Take a look at this, right? You have this trend line going back to June, and even below, if you go back to the same starting point as the trend line on Bitcoin, which was in April, I mean, when connected to the recent low, I mean, you are miles above. And that just tells you the relative strength has really gone in to ETH here in the near term. Now, the question is, does ETH still have more upside? And I would kind of argue that it does potentially based on this trend line. But let's erase this trend line and use a parallel channel because I think that gives us a good basis for kind of figuring out where ETH could go. And so what we do is we connect the lows here and we drag it up to the highest point right there. And what we could see is that really we should potentially have one more move up on ETH to around the 50, let's see, that would be around 5,200 level in the near term. And assuming this is all assuming risk assets continue to hold up, right? We obviously need to see risk assets hang in there, meaning the stock market. We don't want to see a big sell-off in the stock market because people obviously get scared in crypto, or at least some do. Obviously, hodlers don't, but some do get scared. But the point being is that you're still high. Here's a low, higher low, higher low. Here's a high, higher high, and even a higher high here. So everything bullish continues to be grinding higher here, okay, and continuing to move to the upside there. All right. So again, kind of seeing where things are going, but right now, I think you could make the case that as long as we maintain higher lows and higher highs, and this parallel has not been hit to the upside recently, that we likely would go up there. Now, looking at Solana here, this is kind of an interesting chart on Solana, right? Because what we have on Solana is, at least for now, is an interesting trend line right through here, right? So we have, well, actually, no, let's actually do it through, let me just see here. Where's that line coming from? Yeah, right through here. That's the line that I wanted to go to. See that one? How long it goes back? And so you wonder why Solana ran into resistance right up around 210 or so. It's very clearly here going back to actually the August 2025 high low pivot right there. Now, if we go, this is, by the way, this is the 10-minute chart. So this is just very short term. But if we go to the daily chart, this is where things get even more interesting. Look at the trend lines on the daily chart. You have the high from May connecting through this late May high back to this July high, August, early August, and late August high. And that's kind of your stopping point in the near term. Notice how Solana is making a push here. And really, in fairness to Solana, low, higher low, higher low, higher low. You're still doing okay here, but we have to see how it behaves at the 215-ish level right here. So let's watch that very closely. If you can break out above 215, folks, you'll have a little resistance right in this range around 220. You get through 220, you should head up to about 265. And if you look at the longer term chart, this again would be upside. Your max upside would be around the 303, 302 level. This long trend line going back to the bull market high from 2021 to the recent bull market high here in January of 2025. Now, on the downside, let's look at the downside, right? It's important for us to always look at both sides of the coin. Here you have an underbelly trend line on Solana at 125 here going back to June. Then it connects through this low here. So if we turn down, you will have support right around 175. This trend line, 175 should be good support. But if that breaks, it opens the door to a bigger breakdown that could take this back to $115, $120. And that again would be this longer trend line going back to 2023. That would be a great buying opportunity, by the way, based on chart analysis, at least at this point in time. So really, again, wedge pattern, you would give this a bullish bias. We need to see how price reacts at a 215. Can it break out? What does it do here? If it breaks out, then we start kind of looking at these higher levels with a max upside for this cycle of around 305, 300 area. And then on the downside, if it breaks through the 175 level, then it opens the door. You'll have a little stopping point at 156, but down to about 115 to 120. That would be a really good buying level there. Lastly, Cardano, folks, and I know you probably want me to go through other ones. I'll spatter some of those other ones in coming videos, but Cardano has again briefly breached $1 up here, so nice move there. One thing to note on Cardano, it's still fighting this trend line going back to the highs in December. We can see right here. And so again, you have your high from December of 2024 through your big pop high in March. And then you can see how it keeps trying to break through this level, but it's really been struggling right in here. And it keeps on getting rejected. Now, if it can get through there, which is around 95 cents to $1, now we're talking upside to $1.20 and maybe even a retest of $100.33. But right now, if you're a bull, you need to see this zone right here really broken with confirmation to the upside. We get that, folks. That's going to be very positive for Cardano. Now, on the downside, we also have this kind of upsloping zone, just like we did on Solana as well. Okay. So you'd look for this, and if you come down to, let's say, 82 to 80 cents, if that breaks, you're likely headed to 68 to 69 cents and potentially even lower. But right now, again, you know, the altcoins compared to Bitcoin, they continue to look good. If you go back to Bitcoin dominance, you can see Bitcoin dominance has broken down, so that confirms that viewpoint as well. And again, for the most part, generally, you give the benefit of the doubt to the bullish side on altcoins right now, even though some are very extended, but there could be more upside here on those altcoins. Bitcoin continues to look a little bit more suspect. And again, obviously things can change. I'll keep you guys updated. Don't forget, folks, I run Smart Money Crypto at verifiedinvesting.com, where I give out swing trades on crypto, top 50 cryptos. We have a bottom 50 as well in there, called Altcoin Edge. We have a hodler service in there. It's very, very cool. Come check it out at verifiedinvesting.com. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.